sinuous.
Fire. Back off the streets.
Yeah. This album consists of a bunch of tracks that didn't make it to official releases, and still dope enough to wanna put it on repeat quick. So peep this, throw this in your CD player. Oh, I forgot they non-existent, dog. Shit has changed major. So scratch that, throw it in your iPod player. Like, my God, he write hard, a ball on you figures. Yo, they throw backs, give it away for free. Like, oh boy, go and make noise when you hear. Hope you jump for joy. I'm optimistic, glass ain't half empty, it's half full. Hopefully by now you know me from the Jazz Council, that was years ago. So I brought more fire to douse dudes and playing by house rules. I lay back like a couch dude. I'm that dude to make his own beats, writes his own rhymes, records his own shit. Probably why it takes so much time to put out an album. Man, I'm always behind schedule. Ain't that I ain't hungry, I just always got my plate full. Try to digest all the topics that I'm spitting. You need to sit back and actually take the time to listen. We living in a new age where mind states are feeble. Kids' attention spans are shorter than Danny DeVito. My beats though, be banging, be about my business. Bass stays knocking like a Jehovah Witness. Leave them scattering when chattering. The gang of rhyme patterns, I ain't worth challenging. You all need some aspirin, aspiring to be me. No empires to feed, just a chosen few that's flowing through. Firing up the weed, Jesus, crazy what the world coming to. I'm here to live it, make music. But y'all is just hanging on a gimmick, huh? Wait a minute, man. Don't get me confused with none of these newbie ass rappers, man. I know the game be feeling fucked up, but I've been making beats since '95, regardless if I had the right promotion or not. Word up. Hey yo, I ain't always humble, I ain't always intense. I've had my good and bad days like anyone else, more or less. Probably a lot more than less, so the more of it in a sense. Feel blessed, so I just move forward through the stress. But don't smoke stress, smoke the bombest weed you ever seen. Cannabis club category, certified Cali green. Type of bomb that I keep up in my sack. They give a lot of cats anxiety attacks, there's no denying the facts. But enough about the weed though, I keep it on a need to know basis. It's time for me to cut to the chase quick. So download this free LP, spread it to your friends and family, even to the little haters mad at me. I got 2 official LPs coming after these. So far I'm grateful for the love that's coming back to me. Truly appreciate the support, especially my peeps that had my back when I was going in and out of court. But of course a shout out to all my people who kept the game alive instead of killing it, selling out with weak flows. My crew, anyone that gave an honest point of view. Much respect besides me, man. I do this shit for you, yeah, for you. Overpasses, some choose to overlook it. They should be looking past it. We hope for classics. We over you whack bastards. Soul suspects, man, we fall from the average. People try to act like they shit don't stink. They'll be up shit's creek, plus their ship's gonna sink. Now they knee deep in bullshit with nothing to think. On the brink of dealing with the most unpleasant of things. Time switch up, find ways to humble your strut. Just when you was thinking you was the next runner up, shit out of luck, yo, it's just the way it goes. I ain't gotta stress the rest, all you already know. From a distance, street lights start to filter in. Home from a round trip, had to visit new lands. Back in the building again, back from building with fans. Spaced out, sleep deprived, staring at the ceiling fan. So many things that they said to us when we was kids, but it was all bullshit. Yeah, open up your eyes. They would try to tell us one thing, then say the next thing. So I say, never listen to the lies. Man, everyone's a critic, just spit it how you live, it's how it's meant to be intended. So open up your eyes. It's all part of the game.
And we got volume, I think. What is going on, folks? Welcome back. May I introduce to you guys Fabio Palvelli, as though you don't know him. Never thought today, Fabio, we'd see you on a YouTube channel of mine. It seems we've got the
Why not, man?
We've got the roles confused a little bit here.
Why not? Dude, the honor, it's all mine.
Well, I'm very happy to have you here, and it looks like we already got some folks in the chat, which I'm super psyched to have you guys here. Patrick, my man, we were just talking about you. So good to see you, buddy. Happy to have you here. Olika is back. Belly's here. Belly B. Erica Ruiz is back again. Awesome. Thank you guys all for joining me. Giovanna, Kisan, Siakan, Clark. And Allie's back again. Oh, and she's with Max. What's going on, guys? I hope you guys are, staying happy, staying positive. Max, I hear that Allie's been doing some cooking for you, so I'm going to count you as a lucky man. Make sure you do the dishes for At very, very least, of course. But to anyone who doesn't know Fabio, that might know me from my Jokey stuff and not from my ArcViz stuff, Fabio is one of the founders of the D2 conference, which is a huge and amazing conference in Vienna every year for architectural visualization. That's where we actually met for the first time in person, like 4 years ago, and I've been going every year ever since. It's an amazing, amazing event. There's a link, I think, somewhere in the comments below, where there should be. God knows.
Oh my God, I didn't ask you to do that. Thank you, dude.
Oh, dude, I mean, it's better than trying to post at places whilst doing this. But so you've been running that for, how many years has it been now? That since the first, like, I wasn't at the first one, but I've seen the pictures.
You haven't been to the first one. You haven't been to the one that came before that. That's altogether, I think, 8 years now.
It's amazing, and last year was even bigger and better than the ones before. So it's been an amazing thing. And then he also, in case the hat didn't give it away, he also makes a lot of YouTube videos, largely focusing on kind of the business side of running either design business, architectural visualization, etc.
Yes.
So there are links there as well. Yeah, Olika, I'm glad I did the introduction. I figured there'd be some folks in our industry that didn't know him. You might be the last one. Oh, and Matthew Bannister's in the chat. What's going on, bud? Thank you much for coming to hang out with us. So maybe I'll start by saying how my day started today. I had a really late night last night, getting some stuff out for a deadline. And so I didn't go to bed till like 4 or 5 a.m., which meant I didn't wake up until, 10:30 or so. And when I woke up on my phone, there was a notification for our monthly chat. Fabio and I have scheduled. So I said, oh, I have a chat today with Fabio. Fantastic. And like, just as I was looking at that, you sent a message. You're like, why don't we just stream it? And I'm like, fantastic. And so here we are today. It's been a happy little surprise. And so this is more of a breakfast beer than a lunch beer for me today. But, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. Okay. We were just kind of thinking about chatting. The isolation videos and all of the talks and conversations that D2's also been putting up on their YouTube channel have been making me smile. And I think a lot of the times, because it's a lot of like connecting, and anyone who's been watching this stream at all knows, like, one of my things that I've been doing every day since we've been locked down has been calling a friend to talk to them, just to catch up, make sure they're all doing okay, and make sure I'm getting some type of human interaction outside of my immediate family. And you guys are posting a lot of those lives and talking about ARC stuff. So when did that idea come up?
I guess that in my case, everything that we're doing it because we kind of want to bring back a little bit of normality into the lives of people. We were chatting about this before, but I'm a little bit ashamed of like how a lot of internet creators are acting like if nothing was happening. And so, I feel like I have the moral obligation to bring stories of like people that are going through, whatever it is that it's happening, and to talk about it openly, and to also share a little bit of the getting bored at home that people are going through. I mean, for fuck's sake, I started to model again. Did you see? That gives you an indication of how much time I have at hand.
Just how bad it's gotten. Fabio's modeling cars again.
Yeah. I mean, I've never done like, I worked in the field of architecture visualization. That means for most of us having the ability of like finding models on Evermotion, put them inside a 3D scene and render. And so, like I love cars, I love motorbikes, I love shoes. Actually, I modeled also a couple of shoes in the past. And I like taking shots of them and make them look pretty and so on and so forth. Well, so now I'm doing it again.
You know that I'm a big fan of doing any type of personal projects that you enjoy, right? Like,
yeah.
I try to learn something when I make personal work. I try to like work on some goal in mind so that hopefully I'm improving. Though that's definitely secondary to, it's something that I enjoy doing, right? And so every day I try to draw in the morning, and this live stream's kind of messing up my overall schedule. but then like at least a couple times a day try to start and work on a little bit of 3D personal work. And learning is definitely a goal, but it's a secondary goal. To if I do those things that day, no matter how bad a job went, or maybe I got bad news from a client, which that's kind of happening to I'm definitely hearing a lot of projects hitting pause, both kind of in the ether and for my own work. I've had a few projects that we're supposed to start in the next few weeks that aren't. But no matter how bad all of that stuff gets, like I still got my wife and daughter here, and I did something productive. I did some drawing, or I did some 3D, and I enjoyed it. So like fighting the boredom with as much productivity as I can, basically.
It's like, I don't know, like the state of mind of creative people is so different from the one of any other person. I got my wife in the other room, and she's doing home office as well.
Mm-hmm.
And she cannot wait for the working hours to be over, and then she just, without any problem, lays on the couch, and I love her so much, and she starts watching all these shows on Netflix. Like, I think now the show that she's looking at, it's called Love is Blind.
My wife is watching that same thing. That's where they can talk to each other, but they don't get to see each other, right?
And I have no idea. I should ask her, and she's probably gonna murder me for that. But those are fantastic shows for the quarantine, because they require no attention whatsoever, And it's now, I'm just a little bit afraid, because I can see it that show after show, episode after episode, she loses a couple of neurons.
Oh, you have water, so you're not losing any neurons. I'm losing a couple neurons for this live stream. I'm okay with it.
Man, seriously, like, I don't know. But anyway,
yeah,
no, I actually envy her, because she can unplug when she's done, and I'm never stopping. Like, I'm always like either talking to people, trying to come up with creative ideas of how to do things. And I talk to a lot of our colleagues
Mm-hmm.
very often, every day. And I think and I say this because I would like for people to also not fall behind and be like, okay, since this is a downtime, we're not gonna do anything, we're just gonna sit back and relax.
Yeah, I think that for me, like if me just like sitting down and not doing anything for a week would be a really quick way to like put me on edge. Like a really, really quick way. And so like I find that when my wife goes to sleep, which is usually like around like 9 or 10 at night, and I usually go to bed at 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning, if I have work to do, I get back to work. And if I don't have work to do, like generally speaking, I do like 10 minutes of meditation.
Right.
I like the Beautify app a lot. The British accents.
Oh, you told me about it.
Yeah, really calm me down. I try to do like 10 minutes of that, and then the best way for me to like kind of clear my mind and relax is actually to like focus on something and be consumed in that. Right? Like have you tried Brain FM?
No, what is this?
I keep talking about it, and it doesn't seem like a lot of people are aware of it. And I'm not sure if like any of the quotes science is backed up, but it's basically like AI generated music that is supposed to entrain your brain into like kind of like the waves of focus. That's the idea.
Okay.
It very, very, very well could be psychosomatic in that I think it's supposed to work, and so it does. But as opposed to listening to podcasts or audiobooks or having YouTube playing in the background while I'm working or doing personal work, I've been putting on Brain FM, which like, have you ever listened to like Chilled Cows, like lo-fi hip hop mix?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It kind of sounds like that. And you just kind of put that on. I've been using an app called Freedom, which turns off YouTube and Facebook altogether.
Oh,
and
really?
like limits it. Like I'd have to restart my computer to get to it, and it connects to my phone as well. So it like completely detaches me from my like kind of big procrastination centers. And then I just sit down and I start working. And if I can get into like a rhythm and like let an hour or two go by while doing that, whether it's just doodling, which I might do a little bit of here, to give, someone a break from our beautiful faces. But if I can focus on that for an hour, regardless of whether I drew anything cool or made anything cool or anything out, just the act of being focused into something creative, to me, is like what really kind of like mellows me out and makes me say, like, okay, there's still some normalcy in life. Like, we'll deal with everything else as it comes, because that's all we can do right now.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, I did a little practice and I made something that I'm cool, or I made a drawing for my wife, or whatever it might be. So definitely working is my best way to relax, I guess. If that
Are you
makes sense.
spending more time doing 2D matte painting, or you're also working in 3D?
My practice schedule is an hour. The first thing I do every morning is an hour of practice, and I kind of change that every 30 days or so as to what it's going to be. Right now it's been drawing. I want to get better at sketching, so it's been a combination of like digital drawing and like, apparently, to get better at drawing stuff, you're supposed to do exercises like this. Like drawing circles over and over.
Okay.
If you want to get some meditation, practice drawing circles. But just like boxes, cylinders. So like a lot of like boring-ish art stuff, but also like stuff that really kind of lets your brain kind of go. And then a bunch of like digital drawing of kind of whatever. The thing that I found, the thing that's made practice really work for me in the past like 3 months is instead of like waking up in the morning and coming into my office and trying to figure out what I'm going to do for practice, what I do is before I go to bed at night, I decide what I want to practice. And then I set up my kind of desk. If I'm going to draw on paper, I make sure I have room to draw. If I'm going to draw on the Cintiq, I make sure the Cintiq's out, Photoshop's open, Chrome and all. Everything's closed so that when I wake up, I make coffee, brush my teeth and handle that business. And then I come in here, and as soon as my computer's on, like the screens are on, I'm ready to work, and I don't have to make any decisions. So like if I decided last night that I was going to practice painting clouds, let's say, I would already have clouds up and everything else. And then regardless of how I feel first thing in the morning, that's what I'm doing. I don't have to make a decision. I don't have to motivate myself. I don't have to think through what I feel like doing. And then I also end up practicing things that would otherwise be uncomfortable, right? Like I feel like if you're about to start practicing and you're thinking through it, if it's like, oh, I'm really bad at drawing people, but I'd like to be better at it. But like, we don't like doing things we don't want to do, and I'm about to do it. Like, detaching the decision of what I'm going to practice and the practice itself has been like a game changer in the past couple of months for me. So yeah, that's my morning routine.
You know how they say, if you fail to prepare, you're prepared to fail.
There you go. We should probably.
You remember, like last time that we were speaking, we talked about these things that we do in the morning of like writing down things that we're thankful for.
Oh, I do them at the end of the day when I'm setting up my practice. But yeah.
Okay. Because like this is something that I think helps me to keep the focus on the goals that I have. Like for instance, as of now, I'm going all in into the creation of content.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, when I get to the part, I will focus on creating content for my followers or whatnot. And I remind myself every day of the fact that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. It helps. I think it does, because then you reset the way you think about mundane tasks. They become, I don't know, a habit, I want to say.
Yeah, I think my wife's really noticed the difference since I started doing like the 3 things of gratitude. And to anyone who hasn't seen like a YouTube talk about that or anything like that, the idea is just at the end of every day, you write down 3 things that happened that day that you're grateful for. So, almost every day there's one thing from like some cute thing that Charlie did that made me feel like a half decent father. Usually something that my wife did, and usually something that I did creatively. Tend to be like the 3 themes, but like the idea is to write it down specifically, and so that you kind of remember the specific thing that happened. because our brains naturally focus on the negatives because that's a survival instinct, right? Like
Yeah.
the fact that your caveman buddy was nice to you doesn't matter as much as the fact that you didn't get eaten. So like it's just training yourself to remind it. And one of the things where I've noticed it like a lot, like even in my own head, is you know, Charlie's home now. Charlie's our 18 or 20 month old daughter. Charlie's at home now, and she's awake all day and wants to run around and play and doesn't understand the idea of work, obviously, or really understand much of anything at this point. But you know, she comes in all the time, and a lot of times I'll be working, and like if I'm in kind of a zone, it's hard to get pulled out of that because you know you can't just hop right back into it. You kind of have to work up to it. But generally speaking, at the end of the day, like those little moments tend to be the things that I write down in my little notepad, right?
Yeah.
And so it's engendering, I think, more patience for me because when she comes in and like daddy's working or whatever it might be,
Yes.
it's more like, okay, like 5 minutes of Charlie time is probably good for me, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of, I think it's put a bunch of perspective onto things.
I totally see where you're coming from, and you know, like, it's going to sound so stupid for some people, but you know, I only have a dog. I don't have a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that, you know, I write down that I'm thankful for the fact that, you know, my dog comes and hang out. You see, sleeping on the, and you know, like when I have to go out with her and I have to take her out, and
Mm-hmm.
it's still a little bit cold outside, and you know, it's windy. You know, I'm like, she makes me happy, so let's go outside.
Yeah, and like even if that means you sent an email later than you wanted to or whatever else, you know, that's probably a very beneficial 5-10 minutes for you, you know.
Yes, that's true.
But you have to be able to kind of acknowledge it. Because if you just go out being frustrated about the fact that
Yeah.
you still have an email to write and everything else, then it's not a worthwhile 5-10 minutes. You have to say like, okay, we're gonna go for a walk. We're gonna get some fresh air. I'm gonna, you know, my dog gets like scared. We have still snow here at the moment, and like my dog hates snowmen. And
Oh,
I
really?
think with everyone kind of stuck at home, there's more snowmen than usual. So it's just like him being terrified of like all these balls of snow, which like,
Oh, poor little thing.
what can you do? But yeah, I think that I definitely credit like the three points of gratitude every day is like giving me a better perspective on those things.
It's crazy how such a small hack can really change the way you perceive certain things. And you know, like I come from the south of Italy, and you know, I was educated that feelings and things like mental health, you deal with them by suppressing them.
That's how my father taught me to do those things.
And so I don't know, it feels good now to have something that I can do to feel better a little bit inside the coconut.
Yeah, I think that everyone needs that right now. Absolutely,
Yeah.
and I do think very very strongly, and kind of like one of the reasons that I started this live stream is that I think that like it has to be intentional, right? Like you have to like that. It's not work. It's just enjoyable work.
Yeah.
And but I think that with everything going on, like if you just hop on to like YouTube or any of the news channels right now and you watch that for like an hour, it's very hard to be positive about anything. And there's a lot of bad stuff going on without question, and a lot of hardship and a lot of struggles that we're all dealing with, and individually we all have our individual struggles. But we can't let that move us into a defeated mindset that we won't rise to this occasion. Right? Like it's going to be hard and it's going to hurt and it's not going to be easy by any means. But, you know, finding a way to say like, I believe that I have the capabilities or will grow the capabilities to deal with whatever comes my way is the plan. And so hopefully, you know, people are enjoying this chat and making some stuff, but you know, whatever works for you, whatever makes you positive and makes you wake up with the idea of like, I can deal with what's going on, I think is the important thing right now in whatever form that is.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. And I think that, you know, like when people talk about survival spirit, this is actually what they're supposed to be thinking about. It's I think that very often people make the mistake of acting impulsively about circumstances, and sometimes this is justified by, you know, the other day Jeff posted this thing about people dumping their prices because
Uh,
everybody feels like
yep.
they're losing a chance. And it's like, the reality is that if you look at the numbers and if you talk to people, there isn't really the need to dump prices, because it's not like people don't want to work because they don't have the money. It's because at the moment there is a hold that it's impacting everybody.
Yeah.
And so, like, instead of going into panic mode, people should chill a little bit, should think about what is happening, and should try and think, how can I put it, like, rationally about the actions that they're going to do, because eventually these actions, they might have repercussions that might be damaging actually your business and not supporting it.
Yeah, they I was actually briefly talking about this the other day. One of the things that I've found in my career is that like the few times that I've changed my prices in any meaningful way, um, almost entirely I had to get an entire new set of clients.
Mm,
Because most of my clients, and I think most clients in the industry, they have a price that they're willing to pay, and they want to get the best possible image for that price. But if you, double
yes,
your price, that client probably can't be your client anymore.
yes,
And that's a challenge, right? And so I've always kind of those periods have always been tough, and of course you feel strange asking for more money. And there's all that to go with, but the one thing, and listen, I think every firm needs to do what they need to do to stay afloat through this and
of
do their
course.
best. And so I don't want to sound unsympathetic to, like, there are firms that are in a lot of difficulty right now. But
Yeah.
you got to do what you got to do. But at the same time, if you slash all of your prices and then you at least bring in some work that you can maybe keep the lights on and keep most of your staff employed through all of this, you have to remember that all of those clients, it's going to be tough raising your prices when you come out of it. And if you don't have a healthy business once things get better, and things will eventually get better, if you don't have a healthy business at that point, like, what good is it? There was actually, this was, where was it on? Do you know the podcast Masters of Scale with
Yes,
Reid
I
Hoffman?
do. Yes. Yeah.
He
It's a
just
very good podcast.
I just listened to this last night, and I think that I think business owners should listen to it. He had a like, I think it's like a half an hour conversation with Danny Meyer, who is like, he's the head of Union Square Hospitality Group, I think it's called. Like, they're the guys who do Shake Shack, and they have a whole bunch of different restaurants, and they just laid off 2,000 people. 2,000 people. Their staff that remains is like 200-ish, I think. So most of their
Wow.
workforce, because they had to close all of their restaurants, obviously all of their bar and restaurant staff. But he did that for his employees, and so he took the money that he did have and set up a fund to help them with their emergency needs as much as possible. When you hear someone laid off almost his entire workforce, you think that guy's an asshole, and those poor people. But his position, and I very much enjoyed hearing his take on it, is that, listen, if I try to keep them all employed while I can't make any money, then they can't get any unemployment. We're going to drain all of our reserves, and there's a good chance that we won't have good jobs for them when they come back. But if we
Mm,
lay them all off and we set up these funds to help them pay for their insurance and pay for their groceries, and make sure that they can continue living, in addition to their unemployment, then when this is all over, they'll still have jobs to come back to, right?
Look, Mike, let me just make a little, because, those who might not know me, or those who might listen to me for the first time, they might say, who is this guy on the high horse telling us. Um, I sympathize a lot with business owners, and I have huge respect for those who run successful businesses. And, I'm not trying to pass judgment on anyone. People will have to do eventually what they have to do in order to keep their lights on, and most of their decisions will be driven by factors that we don't even know. It's just that, it's still necessary to have this conversation to
Yeah.
talk about, the pros and cons of decisions that are going to be made under such circumstances. Um, I was having this conversation a few days ago. I don't even remember anymore who I was talking to about, but like when you play in Wall Street, with like buying and selling
Yep.
that
Trading stocks,
stuff,
investing, etc.
trading stocks. These are the times where the most unexperienced people lose everything because they go into panic mode. They try to make money on the penny, um, and they end up wasting money. They end up losing money, and in a way, this is a very similar situation because at the moment, those who are not experts in terms of like how do you go through a rough patch like this, they will make decisions that are going to have a bad influence on their business.
And let's be very
Um,
clear: no one's alive has gone through a situation like this. No one
yes,
knows.
exactly. That's
Like
exactly what I mean.
Matthew Bannister, who's in our chat, had a comment about it yesterday. He's obviously been in ArcViz for forever, a wealth of experience, and he says, I don't know what to tell people right now because I've never gone through this. And no one
Yes.
has, and anyone that thinks that they have like the solution of here's how to deal with this situation from a business perspective in the long term is they're just that's their opinion, but it's definitely not based on any type of research or
And
like
I
personal
totally
experience.
agree with that.
As do I.
It's and it's frustrating a little bit that sometimes you hear other people talking. Again, this thing that we were telling each other before about the content creators putting out, content on how to get through the recession and whatnot. As of now, nobody knows what it's happening. Whoever claims to know what it's happening, they don't know it.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with
this
that
is what I
entirely.
do as a this is what I do as a job. I've got clients that came to me saying, "Okay, what do we do now?" And I told them, "Listen, I'll have to be honest with you. I don't know where we can start. Uh, because this is not only a crisis where there is no money, because when there is no money, you can still go and look for some opportunities anywhere else. But as of now, people are on hold. They're not moving, like they're not physically moving. And so thinking that you could penetrate the market by lowering your prices or, offering crazy amount of revisions, and this is
Oof,
not
ooh,
going to
are
get you.
I hope no one's doing that.
I don't
Jeez.
know, but like,
I mean,
look, dude, I have conversations with people, and people ask me, "Do you think this is the right move to do?" And I don't want to say too much about it because
sure.
you never know who is listening. But it is worrying to me, also mainly for the fact that it shows that people don't understand the magnitude of the problem that we're dealing with. To me, that's the most worrying thing, because it's like if we cannot understand what is happening around us because we simply cannot see it.
Well, yeah, I think that anyone that right now is saying this is what's happening and this is how to deal with it is not speaking from a place of any type of like certainty, right? Like the number one thing is that we
Yeah,
just don't
I
know
agree.
right now, unfortunately. And
I think
anyways,
there was a book that I read of Tony Robbins, which is
mm-hmm.
called Unshakable, and it's really like it's a book that talks about investments and how to improve your portfolio of assets so that when things like this happen, you're kind of ready and you can sort of amort the hit. And
Yeah,
all the things that you can do, you should have done them before the crisis, not after.
and if there's like a silver lining to like the hardship, I do think that there's a lot of people right now realizing all of the things they should have been doing
Yeah.
as long as they've been in business. But let's catch up on the chat. I haven't actually been looking. Have you been following the chat at all? Let's see
No,
if there's
because
anything that we...
I don't know if I open something, if I break something.
Oh, fair enough. Let's just see here. Oh, they're talking about a movie. Oh, they're talking about some trailers. Fantastic. They're talking. They're talking amongst one another. That is fantastic.
That's
and we got
beautiful.
That's
some ultimately the goal.
We got some new people in the chat. Thomas is here. What's going on, Thomas? Good to see you again, my friend. Luis. I'm gonna go with Luis. Is here, guys. Thank you guys for hanging out. And Michael or McCall definitely agree. Like lowering prices is going to be a tough one to come back from in the long run. And we have a question coming in from Arc Renders at the moment. He says, "Hi guys, I have a big question for you two. I'm a decent artist, but a very bad businessman. I'm talking before this virus hit us. I had zero work so far in 2020. So the question would be, he actually hasn't typed the question yet. Well, he has a question coming that we can answer. And I'm just starting to kind of do a little bit of my doodling since I just woke up and haven't actually done my daily practice. So we'll put that on in the background. And we'll still be able to see us just as a heads up so that you know. I'm just starting to do like some like big thumbnails for another idea that I'm working on at the moment.
I'm trying a little bit to model this Stratus, but it keeps transforming itself into a Lamborghini for some reason.
Yeah, well,
Making a transformer.
the problem is that you just told everyone you're trying to do the Stratus. You could have just made the Lamborghini and told everybody, hey, I was doing the Lamborghini
I was
today.
doing a Lamborghini.
Oh, and Tudor's in the house. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, dude.
Good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. As Ark actually writes out his question, if anyone has anything that is on their mind that they want to talk about or want to hear from us about, for whatever actual like value we can bring, I'm sure we're happy to talk about it. We don't really have any plans for today.
I'm gonna make pasta when we're done, so
everyone already knew that, Fabio. Everyone already knew that.
You're keeping me healthy. That's what you're doing.
I'm just trying to stretch out the gap in between, second lunch and first dinner as much as possible. So ArcRender says, the question is how to get clients. Now I know emails won't work, but I can't get any meetings. I'm posting everywhere on social media and all that I have is likes. So how can I start getting real clients? That is a very difficult question. That is not a softball question. Fabio, do you want to start on that, or do you want me to give my 2 cents on that?
You go for it, and then I'll tell you what I do as a strategy with my own client.
Yeah, you probably have more. I can tell you what I've experienced firsthand, which is when I started Three Marks as a business, I've been freelancing for a long time. I had a decent number of kind of clients that came here and there. And eventually I was, at the time, working for Thomas Johansson in-house, making images for him. And one of my clients came through and he said, we have this 30 image job for this big project, blah, 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 blah. Do you want to do it? It's a big one. And I said, yes. And I quit my job. Since then I've not gone out and tried to find a single client. I have done as good of a job as I possibly can with all the clients that I did have. Whenever I got one, I tried to over deliver, impress them, make them think that there's nobody that can do what I do in the way that I do it. Both like in how I dealt with the process of working with them and also the actual work I was creating. Being a one-man shop for the most part, throughout all that time, I don't need a ton of work. And so if I get a 30 image job, that's a decent chunk of my year that I'm working on it. And generally speaking, I just focus on doing that well, and I don't worry about anything else. And by the time that job's done, another job's probably come in either from someone else I worked with, someone that was working with me on that job that went to another job, or whatever else. It's almost all been referral from past clients or past client teams. And I do think that that is the best way, maybe not to grow fast, but to grow carefully, right? Because everyone's coming into working with me based off of some positive comment that somebody said, right? So that relationship's already off to a good foot. And they probably already know that my priorities are the work and not on trying to find clients, which I think clients appreciate, that when I'm working on a project, my focus is on that project, period. So I can't tell you how to find clients, except when you have a client, when you get a small one, bust your ass, especially at the beginning. Over deliver, do a better job than you would, and I don't mean like doing extra rounds of changes or like slashing your prices or anything like that. I mean like go the extra mile with like how you interface with them, being very patient with them, making sure that you like really do your best, right? Like last night I was up until 4, finishing up a couple of images that really should have been done like 6 or 7 hours beforehand, but there were some things in them that were bothering me that the client may or may not ever notice, but I can't not fix them, right? I want every image that I send to my clients, whether it's a preview or a final, to be something that I can absolutely stand behind as I think this is great, and I'm willing to change it, but this is my best foot forward at all times.
I'm so glad that you actually made that, that you emphasized that point, because I think it's crucial to make people understand what it means to go the extra mile. Going the extra mile means that you're going to give your best, and not that you're going to do more that you bargain for. I mean, of course, it can also mean that you're going to do more that you bargain for if it fits your schedule, your agenda, and everything that it's related to how productive you can be. Because if all of a sudden you have to give up another project because you're trying to over deliver on a project that just paid you enough for doing that project, then it becomes counterproductive.
Yes.
Now, how do you find clients? I think that this question is at the base of the problem that a company might have, and I'll explain why. If you take any textbook as of how you start a business needs to have three basic components. And this is not me talking about my opinion. This is just as it is. You need to have human capital, meaning that you have to have the people and the skills that these people have to have in order to do the job. You need to have um, financial capital, money, not because you want to be rich, but just because money is a tool that allows you to operate throughout the life of your company. And already when you understand this, you change the perspective that you might have about having a company. Because a lot of people work for money, and one might say, why? You don't work for money? No, you do work for money, but one thing that you have to understand about money is that money it's not the end goal. Money is a tool that keeps you going forward.
Yeah.
And the third component, you need to have market capital. If you do not have market capital, you're basically starting with a handicap. And a lot of companies, they start barely having human capital, meaning that sometimes they don't even know how to manage the business. And so they might say, yeah, but I'm an artist and that's all that you need. No, because the human capital says, I need to have somebody that does the accounting, I need to do somebody that does the marketing, I need to do somebody that does the production. If any of these positions it's missing from the organization of your company, you do not have the tools in order to create a company. And this might sound like very harsh advice, but it is the reality. And so,
Can you,
sorry,
I think for probably a lot of people listening, particularly people that don't read business books, want to go into what exactly market capital is in the terms of like art viz or image making?
clients. You need to have clients. You start a business not to look for clients. You start a business because you have clients that need you.
At least when you're getting into an established industry, which, ArcViz
Exactly.
is a young industry, but it's an established industry,
Yes, that's
and
a
like
very good point. Now, there is an exception to the rule that I just discussed, and that's innovation. If you have a startup, you do not need money, you do not need market capital,
well,
because if you have a good
you probably need money.
no, no, well, what I mean is that you might have a very good idea and money will come to you. Somebody will give it to you.
If you have
You
the money to actually get whatever you're offering to market.
obviously.
Yeah.
But no, well, that's the thing that if you have a very good idea, you might be able to raise the money, and the money that it's going
But
to give.
that's still having the money, right? Like if you want to do a startup, you either need enough money to keep yourselves afloat to bootstrap your
Yes,
way
yes,
until you
yes,
can actually start bringing in revenue, or you
obviously.
can get money by outside investors, which you give away percentage points and everything else. But one way or
And
another, you need money to keep the lights on
yes,
through the
absolutely.
storm and also like through downturns, right? Like,
Yes,
um, like, and that's I think one of the things that most people in ArcViz have like an architectural background, which usually has some professional practice training and the like. And I think that what they need more of is just like basic ideas that like if you want to work for yourself, you need enough money that like if you don't get paid from a client at all. Maybe they just disappear off the face of work. Maybe they go out of business, whatever else. Like that's money
yeah, yeah,
that you've lost that you need to weather. And what if you lose a job, or what if like
yes,
you need enough money that every time a job comes in or a request for a proposal comes in, you're not thinking to yourself, I need to land this job, otherwise I'm not going to have any money, right? Like
exactly,
money gives you the
exactly.
freedom to say no to jobs that are not the right fit for you.
Money helps you with your own positioning. That's the thing. And another thing that I wanted to say about startups is that uh, the money that then you get when people invest in yourself, it's not money that you earn, it's money that you invest in order to create the market niche that you're going to tackle. Because that's the thing about innovation. um, we don't need things like, say, the iPhone until the iPhone becomes part of our daily routine, right?
Yeah.
And so when you create innovation, some of the money that it's invested, actually the biggest percentage of money that it's invested in your uh, company, it's given to you in order for you to build the market niche that you're going to serve.
Hmm.
And that's a very important thing to understand. Now, with that said, there are still companies that go into the business and they try to do everything they can to build a portfolio of clients. Now, my guess to those who are in that position and they start from zero is, do not focus on clients as in, like the developers, but try to collaborate with companies. There are a lot of companies that are, either working with freelancers or they hire from time to time external people, simply because creative agencies, they're more interested in your skills than clients are. Clients, they don't care about the skills, they want the image. And if they're talking to you and you are a nobody that needs the money, chances are that they are talking to you only because they need something cheap and something fast you
Yeah,
know
but I mean, like a lot of firms, and myself included, like you know, don't really use freelancers, right? Like especially like in ArcViz, I feel like, and in fact, there's a clause in my contract that specifically specifies as how I can use freelancers when I need them, which is usually just to accelerate some things. I have a couple of guys that I go to for a few things, but I think that it's a I get a couple emails at least a week, maybe more than that, of like, hey, we're a firm from so and so, we do this. If we can ever help, let us know, and everything else. And I usually just write back, thanks for your interest. I don't use that service.
yeah.
Like I think that
Well,
like I think
I
that if
think
you don't have clients, I think that the idea of market capital is like, I think if you go online and you listen to everyone like, should I quit my job to start chase down my dream career or whatever the thing might be, and they're all like, yes, just take the jump, take the plunge, and everything else. It's always going to feel like taking a plunge if you want to go out on your own or start a business or anything like that. It's always
Yes.
going to feel like you're taking a risk, because it is taking a risk. But like there needs to be a decent amount of like urged caution, I think, in that, because if you just go in and say like, oh, I know how to make an image, I can run a business, which like running a business is a skill set, right? Like both in
Yeah.
soft and hard skills. That when you start a business, you probably have to wear all of those hats. Like I didn't have an accountant for the first couple of years,
Yes.
so I didn't think I could afford one. And so like the idea of just like chasing your dream at whatever cost, well, you can spend all of your extra time working on that while you still have a job. The idea of, and that job can be anything inside or outside of the industry. But I think if you're in a position where you're, hopping out into your own and you don't have any existing clients, then you're making that move way, way too early.
Yes. I
You
agree
know,
100%.
um,
And I think that, like, honestly, I've been through the process as well. And so I talk not from the point of view of somebody that has it figured out, meaning that, when I did it also for this same motive and it was wrong. Um, it takes a little bit of, you need to have a little bit of patience. And the thing is that,
or a lot, or a lot of patience.
or a lot of patience. But this is a thing that I've learned from my buddy Jason. Because Jason was
Jason,
always
who was here earlier,
yeah.
might still be there. Jason's the man.
So, let's see if he's still there. But like,
Jason, if you're there, we love you, buddy.
yes, he's incredibly good at calming myself down and like talking things through, because I'm a very emotional person, and sometimes I jump on my heels and I'm like, okay, let's get it done. Or like I tend to be very impulsive in certain things, and so like
No,
having
you
a
don't. You
person
don't. You
that
don't
is
say. Yeah, that doesn't come through in your personality at all.
and so it's very cool to have somebody that it's in a way a lot more mature than me. And I like, this is one of the things that you often don't hear people saying, but there is such a it's so beautiful when you're able to say things, what, maybe I'm not that mature, because then you start to understand what the problem might be.
Maybe this is not something that I'm great at.
Exactly. Things like this, and it doesn't take much. It's not a big deal to say, look, maybe I'm not as good as I thought as I was, because then it makes you question the things that you might have done that you thought were correct, but instead were really, really wrong,
Yeah, I'm a huge believer. I mean, my background's in philosophy, and I've always liked like the very basic kind of most popular part of philosophy, which is Socrates saying like know what you don't know. Like be very aware that just because you have an architectural degree and you know how to make an image doesn't mean you know how to run a business, which doesn't mean you can't learn it. But I think you see it a lot in architecture, because at least like in the U.S., design schools, they kind of teach this idea, because there's only a need for so many architects. They teach this idea that like getting an architectural degree is like the best way to learn how to think. It's design thinking, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And so if you can think this way, you can do anything. And there's like a little bit of truth in that, and that yes, like you are learning to look at things from a different way and kind of work through problems and everything else. But I think that the result you see a lot is that you have this idea that there's not added knowledge necessary, right? Like if you want to run a business, like you should be reading books on how to run a business, and like everything from how to market yourself from a generic standpoint, kind of the general principles of it, but also like cash management, how much runway you should have, when it's a good time to take a jump off of things. There's like a lot to know, and I run a one-man business, so it's a very compact, easy way. I don't have a lot of overhead. But when you start thinking about like how to price your images, you say, okay, I charge this much because that's what people will pay. But if you're not thinking through like, okay, you have employees, if you have software licenses, if all of these other costs, if you haven't sat down and done a big spreadsheet and really looked at, okay, how many images how quickly can we make an image with a client, which like you can track when you're making images, how long it is, how much can we make from that? What are our costs during that time? What's the chance that we're actually going to have, like more clients coming in afterwards? How do we make sure that we have enough cash to weather the natural fluctuations of a market, let alone something like what we're dealing with now? Like, these are all things that are not unique to our industry by any means. These are the fundamentals of running a business. And there are a lot of people that spend their entire lives just thinking about how to run businesses better, right? Like, as much time as any of us have put into like trying to be better artists or better at 3D or whatever it might be, these people look at running a business as an art, and for them it is, and it truly is. And there's tons of information to read about it. But the first thing you need to know is that I don't know enough. I don't have all of those answers, and so I'm going to go find them.
Yeah, it's true, and I don't really have to add anything to that.
And we're coming up on a full hour of chatting, buddy. And I did some ugly drawings.
Seriously, already?
Yeah, time flies, buddy. Time flies.
Yeah, I know. But it's always like this, like when we jump on a phone call and we just talk about our stuff, it's like time flies by and we don't even realize it. Because that's another thing that, maybe your listeners might be interested in. I mean, we do that not for the show or for anything. It's really like an activity of trying to stay in touch and be better people with each other, like trying to be real internet friends, so to say, right?
I mean, honestly, I feel like that's how I have to do things, like with my friends that live nearby. Like, as I've gotten older, maintaining friendships has become like a little bit of work, in the sense of it's not hard work. Like, literally, we set up like a recurring monthly Gmail event, and then we at least talk once a month. And I'm trying to call or ping one of my friends per day while everyone's working from home. And as a result of that, like, I've talked to friends that I haven't talked to like in a year and a half.
Yes, it's true.
One of my friends, we were on like a video chat having a whiskey, and he took a bath. It was a little awkward and kind of funny.
It was a little awkward.
And thankfully he hit the reverse button, so I didn't have to see more than I would ever want to see while he was getting in and out. But we set this up every month to make sure that we have a chance to connect and check in with one another, because it's just my daughter's going to be 2 in the beginning of July, and it feels like she was born a month and a half ago. I mean, like, time, it's just like you blink and like, oh, I haven't checked in with my buddy John in 4 months. Fuck, that feels like it was a couple of days ago that I talked to him. Like, time, it's just flying by. So yeah, you set a time, send a note. Most of my Google Calendar is like, I'm talking to my buddy Mike Avery on next Saturday or whenever we have it scheduled for next, and I'll let Google remind me to make sure that I'm taking care of like my personal relationships.
But that's a good way to use technology, I would argue.
Yes, absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. But I think, do you have any closing thoughts? Let's see. I've not been good at paying attention to the chat today, guys. I'm sorry. We got Massimiliano. I actually think I might have said that right, or at least kind of close to right. In the house, thank you so much for being here with us. And Clark, Kisan, CG Mood is here. Fantastic. Nitin says that she's kind of like double downing on like what she's good at before moving forward, and I don't think that's I make sure you don't specialize to the point of restricting yourself, but like getting to a point where you feel like you've got something together is a good time to then move to something else. I don't think that you want to be able to do everything all of the time for everybody. Because you're just asked, like a jack of all trades. It's kind of good to have that tool set sitting in your background, but like, I do think that everything's becoming more and more specialized. as long as you're still learning, stick with it. If you stop learning, then start learning at something else. Would be my advice there. But do you have any closing thoughts for the people, my friend?
No, I just want, for people to be realists at the moment, again, try to understand what's going on the planet around you. The fact that, people might lose jobs or might not have jobs, you have to understand as a single person that there isn't much that you can do about it at the moment, at least. And so don't take this don't be frustrated by this. Don't act stupid. And I know that it's very difficult to like the meme, nobody in the history of humankind has ever calmed down by telling them stay
To
calm.
calm down.
uh,
But we all have
but
mugs to say so.
yes, exactly. But the reality is that everything that should have been done in order to avoid not the crisis, but like what it's happening to you during the crisis, because your business might not be 100%, should have been done before. And I'm saying this without judgment, because again, like, nobody could have expected this to happen. um, as of now, our goal is to get out of this crisis and then start again. The only suggestion that I can give to people: don't let the situation get you depressed. Don't let negative thoughts get to your head. Try to survive from that point of view, because once we're going to start again, hopefully, if we do start again,
We will. We will in
it's
time.
gonna be business as usual. And so people need to be ready for that. And that's
Yeah.
the only thing that I really wanna
And
say
the only
to
thing I'd add to
people.
that is to say that it is a hard time for a lot of folks, and but as much as that makes you feel like this is just my problem, this is a global problem that I think,
Yes.
there are. You're absolutely right that like the things that could help right now probably needed to be done in the past, and Bill Gates talks about that in that recent live stream he did, which was really
Yes.
really interesting. That like we could have prepared for this years ago. We could have done some things to make things better back in January, while the politicians were kind of sitting on their thumbs. Those opportunities are past, but we're all in this together, dealing with it moving forward. And there's a lot of people that are sitting and looking like, oh, I wish I had done X in the past, but that is not just their problem. That's a problem that a lot of people and firms are dealing with. And I do believe very, very much so that we are going to rise to the occasion as a society. And so,
Yes.
and if you're feeling like
You
it's
know,
like all on your shoulders, like that you messed up and that you're the only one, like find somebody to talk to. I'm here every day, and I'm happy to talk about whatever. But find someone to talk to about it, and don't get stuck inside your own head, because I think that's a difficult
yes,
and dangerous place to be.
there is really
No,
no reason to blame yourself or blame anybody for this. Really, like, I think that this is really important, what you said. And we really need to make sure that people understand it, because I see it. I talk to people, like, I get maybe 10 messages per week, LinkedIn, Instagram, everywhere, of people that are saying, this is happening to me. And the reality is that this is happening to everybody. And so you might have a bad experience with a client right now and say, yeah, I'm not able to run a business because my clients are all bad. Try to also understand that maybe your client right now, it's going through a rough patch.
they are.
And so they're
All
trying
clients are.
to,
Everyone's
they-
going through some form of rough patch.
yes. And so they're trying to take it over somebody. And, you might be the person that happens to be at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Just I always say to people, interact and don't react. So, calm
I
down,
like that.
breathe, and, this comes from a person that I always react to things. Um, don't react, interact. Try to understand what is happening, ask questions, be genuinely interested in what is happening in the life of your clients. And, it's a couple of months. hold strong. We're gonna get through this. I'm positive 100%. You know, it's I should not say that because I don't want to put the hopes of anybody up, but we're gonna get through this. Okay.
We sure are. Guys, everyone that came to hang out today, thank you very much. Fabio, thank you so much for joining me and streaming our conversation.
Thank you for having me, dude.
Oh, dude,
That was
my pleasure.
a lot of fun.
And to anyone who is listening, tomorrow I'm going to do paintovers. I have to put a post up about it, but you can DM me if you'd like me to edit one of your images for like 10-15 minutes, whether it's a raw rendering, a finished rendering, test rendering, something good, something bad, something fantasy, something realistic. If you'd like to see kind of my first thoughts on your image or like the first things that I would fix if I was editing it, contact me in one way or another, and we'll do that tomorrow. But yeah, thank you guys all. Stay safe, stay home. Everyone should be staying home. Wash your hands and stay productive in one way or another. And until this time tomorrow, you guys be well. Take care, guys.
I love that.
And